Good evening. Another evening stream for me. It's unusual to have two evening streams in a row. At least in my world, it's unusual. I was kind of debating even if I wanted to stream actually up until like the very minute I hit start streaming. All right. Well, I don't really have a plan for this evening. I kind of like. Hey, what's up, Alex? How are you? Yo. I kind of want to do some sort of front end thing. I haven't wrote any front end code in a long time. And I think I just want to. I think I want to vibe code, but I think I want to like vibe code the old fashioned way. What's up, Artwork Studios? How are you? Are you early? Yeah, you're pretty early for a stream, for sure. Alex, 3 a.m. gang. Oh, dude, it's 3 a.m. for you? What are you doing up? You need to be in bed. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to write some front end. Kind of want to practice a little bit of HTML, CSS. But I probably should also work on some actual helpful stuff. I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. What are y'all doing tonight? Artwork Studios, at least I didn't miss this one. Yeah, man, you were here this morning too. Oh yeah, I love HTML, CSS. Yeah, I know. I think I want to just like vibe a little bit. Maybe I always go to icodethis.com and I just usually just pick whatever their daily challenge is and try to recreate it. Alex, you like Tailwind? Yeah, I don't have anything against Tailwind. I've used Tailwind in like one or two projects, and yeah, I don't have anything. I don't think I have anything bad to say about it. I think it's really nice utility first framework. You know, like I've also used Bootstrap. I like Bootstrap. I don't tend to reach for Tailwind though myself. I do enjoy just writing vanilla CSS. I can definitely see how Tailwind would be super helpful on like bigger projects with multiple devs to avoid having a lot of duplicity across CSS classes, right? A lot of classes that do the same type of things. How about Bootstrap? Yeah. you were ahead of me there, Artwork Studios. Yeah. Bootstrap's great too. The good old days of Bootstrap. Yeah, I mean, I think Bootstrap's still good. Yeah, Tailwind, Bootstrap. No objections there. Artwork Studios. I love Bootstrap, but I usually do vanilla. Yeah, I don't. I just lately, the last year or so, last year and a half, I basically everything I built has just been vanilla vanilla CSS. And you know, there's something fun about being able to just like I don't know, there's something fun about not overcomplicating things when you don't want to. You know, like here for like example, this form, right? Like I can literally do this with just a single index.html file, you know? And there's something fun about that. To just sit down, use all the native browser functionality, all the native APIs that exist in the browser now, and just have a good time. What do I want to call this? Password form. And then we can just do cd password form. And then new item, index.html. We'll also open a new tab here. Alex, for sure. Just remember like 2 and 3 the most. Yeah. I use ChatGPT often, but mostly for some JS code I don't know how to do. How about you, Steven? I use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. I use them a lot, like when I know there's something I want to do and I'm not quite exactly sure how I should go about doing it. Like, I guess I kind of use them as like pair programmers, right? Or rubber duckers, where I just kind of like say, this is what I want to do. How would you do it? And then they usually spit out a bunch of code, and then I say, I don't know if I like that, but that sort of gives me an idea, you know, kind of the blank page problem. They're nice for that reason. Browser transition API. I know nothing about that. Sounds fun though. Artwork Studios. In VS Code, there's a shorthand for HTML boilerplate, exclamation, then enter. Oh, that's cool. I wonder if that works with my VS Code extensions, or my VS Code snippets. I have a plugin for NeoVim that basically recreates essentially all the same VS Code snippets for the most part. We just do npx live server, and boom. There we go. Now we're rocking and rolling here. Put this over here. Let's see. So HTML5. Let's see. Password form. And yeah, we'll just do it, you know. I don't think I want to do the styles externally. I think I'm just going to make a style tag. There we go. Okay, so for your tool, the shorthand is HTML5. Yeah, that's the snippet. I'm not sure. Let me try what you said. Yeah, it does the same thing. Exclamation point, because I think that's an IMIT. I think that's an IMIT abbreviation. Or at least that's what it looks like. Looks like that functionality in VS Code is provided by IMIT, and I have IMIT wired up in NeoVim as well. It works the same for me. Alex, no dev build time. Yeah, I mean, just you know, the way the web was meant to be, right? No build. It's everything straight to the browser. Wait, have you guys heard DHH talk about that? DHH, no build. I mean, they're shipping everything without a build step on their front end. Like they ship everything just straight vanilla JS, vanilla CSS, um, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, I just think there's simplicity to it, right? To building it this way. I understand why frameworks exist, right? I mean, they do make the more complex your front end becomes, the more you want the frameworks, right? The more rich interactivity that your front end or your web app has, the more value I see in the front ends. But for small stuff like this, you know, it's just nice to be able to just paint some stuff on the screen and you're off to the races. All right, so I just need to start by, I guess, creating me a card, huh? A centered card. Let's actually get the let's get the color of this thing. What is this? Let's see. Root BG color. And then we'll say body. Background, yep. We'll also say HTML. Whoops. HTML, body. I also, there's a set of CSS resets that I always like to apply to stuff. Let me see if I can get it. I have a gist. Artwork Studios. Alex, can you link that in the chat? Are you talking about the form? You talking about this? Yeah, it's just iCodeThis.com. They just have like a daily front end challenge every day. It's kind of fun to play with. Sogo, would you look at that? It's coffee time. Hello, Sogo. How are you, man? Artwork Studios. I never use frameworks because to me it's a hassle to deploy. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, honestly, Artwork Studios, though, it's not like a huge hassle, in my opinion. I mean, it's relatively straightforward now. Especially with things like Vite, you know, they make it relatively straightforward. But I totally get what you're saying. Like, it's not having a build step does make your life a lot simpler. Sogo, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Well, that's kind of you, Sogo. Sogo, Steven deserves it. I don't know if I deserve it, but appreciate it. All right. So, oh, I was trying to find my CSS resets. Let's see. I should probably make a snippet of this. Whoops. All right. Yes. Yeah, I think that's the same. Yep, that's the right color. All right, now I just need a card with some border radius on it. Looks like there's a drop shadow too. Oh, God. I don't know how big do you think that card is? Let's see, all Windows Shift M, I think. Let's see, 325 pixels by what? By 327. That doesn't look like a square, does it? But I guess it is. Yeah, 325 by 325. Essentially, it's basically a square. Fair enough. Let's do div. Div card. We'll go ahead and say display flex. Flex direction is going to be column. Color white. I think I'll also make the body display flex direction, or actually hold on, just align. I just need to center it. That, and then this should be width 325 pixels. And then maybe a border radius of what, like 0.25 rim, and I'll set the rim, let's see, font size. Font size, we'll set that to 16 pixels. See what that looks like. Needs a little bit more border radius, don't it? Yeah. Quite a bit more border radius. I like exercises like this where you have to match stuff. I always think that's a good skill to have, to be able to match designs, even if it's just by eye. See, it's yeah, I think it's maybe, let's do maybe one rim. Maybe it's a full 16 pixels. Yeah, that looks better, don't it? And then I need a drop shadow. See if Copilot can make me a box shadow. I mean, a box shadow is what I need. Let's see what that looks like. There's probably a little bit too much on the top, because this doesn't seem like it has much of a shadow on the top, but I'm not going to get hung up on that. Yeah, I think that's fine for now. Sogo, was that HTML front end stuff? It was, yep. Steven, are you just going to style it, or are you going to add functionality? I'll probably add functionality to it, like this button, right, probably should show and hide the input. This should toggle. That's probably the most functionality that I'll probably add to it, because it's really just, it's more about just like practicing the design matching, right? It's more of a design front-endy exercise. We could probably add like some submit logic, like the continue button actually submits the form. Maybe we do like password validation. I don't know how far I'll even get on this evening. Depends on how long I stream for. Is that Power Tools for on-screen measurements? Yeah. For Power Toys, I use Win Shift M. Pulls up the measurement tools. Yeah, Window Shift M. Yeah, that's what I use. It's pretty nice. Comes in handy. I also use the color picker quite a bit from Power Toys when I'm doing stuff like this. So Win Shift C is the color picker. I use that quite a bit. You can zoom in, get the exact color. What else? What else do I use in Power Toys? Those are probably the two tools I use the most for front-end related stuff. Unknown not found. What are you making? I'm basically just playing around with front end. This is a website called I Code This, and every day they post like a front end challenge. Kind of a more of like a front end design challenge. And they range in complexity. Sometimes they're simple, sometimes they're more complex. But I didn't really feel like doing anything else this evening on stream besides this. This seemed like fun, and I could chat with you guys at the same time. Artwork Studio. Hey, Steven, you should probably make it send user and password to your Gmail. No, thank you. I want no data. Hey, Yaki, yo, I'm learning. What is a mathematical problem I can solve in Python that will help me learn? Does it need to be a mathematical problem? Is that just you just want to do mathy stuff in Python? You could make, I mean, the classic example for me is like, for that kind of thing is like calculators, right? So you could make, like a compound interest calculator. I think that's an interesting one. You could also make some sort of scientific law calculator, like an ideal gas law calculator. You can do something like that. Or you could implement like a bunch of different scientific equations that people could like plug in values to, and you calculate it for them. Aquinas says TJ just little fat. Is that Aquinas? Are you saying that I'm kind of like TJ, just I'm a little heavier? Is that what you're saying? Nice, man. Nice. Appreciate you. What beginner project using dictionaries would you recommend in Python? That's super specific. Using dictionaries. You could do like a URL shortener and just use an in-memory dictionary, right? So your key could be the, little GUID or whatever you generate for each URL, and then the value could be the URL itself. It's just kind of a very odd specific question. Like I want a project, but it needs to make use of dictionaries. What else could you do with dictionaries? I don't know. Dictionaries always make me think of key value. Unknown not found. I want to master dictionaries. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm curious, like, what is there to master? Like, it's just a data structure in Python, right? That's all it is. Key value pairs. Artwork Studios, do you use object-oriented programming? Do I? Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you write .NET code, most of your .NET code is going to be object-oriented. I mean, you can definitely write .NET code that's more functional, or has functional flavor to it. But, I mean, by the sheer fact that, like, in C# almost everything has to be a class, I mean, you can use static classes with a bunch of static methods and just do it like that, but yeah. definitely write object-oriented code. I think object-oriented is helpful for certain things. Um, Actually, if you look back at a lot of my Advent of Code solutions for this year, a lot of those were I used object-oriented programming to solve a lot of those. But I don't think necessarily one's better than the other. I see the values in both. Advent of Code 2024. Yeah, see, like a lot of times I'll write kind of object-oriented. I mean, the biggest thing with object-oriented code is like it's all about the encapsulation, the abstraction, the pairing of data with functionality, right? And I think that is nice for some things, but I also think object-oriented code oftentimes lends itself to mutability a lot, and mutability can cause issues for you. So I don't know. There's some things about object-oriented code that's nice. There's some things that aren't. I'm not a big fan of like a lot of inheritance, right? Like I think 3 levels of inheritance is probably more than enough. I think if you go more than 3 levels of inheritance, things get way too abstract. It's hard to reason about things. Too much indirection. Unknown not found. Could you do a username password set up with dictionaries? What do you mean? I mean, yeah, you could definitely, key, username, value, password. I mean, you can use dictionaries. Dictionaries are just a data structure. It's just a way to model something in code. Artwork trees. I usually use procedural programming. Haven't tried object-oriented programming. Well, object-oriented programming is typically more imperative. It usually is more procedural, classically. So I think it's good having knowledge of both and can use interchangeably. Yeah, I agree. I think that's why it's kind of interesting if you know a language like C# and you know a language like JavaScript or TypeScript, you're kind of, when you write both of those, when you write JavaScript and TypeScript, you can kind of lean into maybe writing more functional code. C# forces you to learn more OOP concepts, and then you have that understanding of kind of both worlds a little bit, and they kind of start to blur, and you can see where in some cases you lean towards an object-oriented approach, in other cases you lean towards a functional approach. Unknown not found. What does object-oriented code mean? It's basically this idea that you're going to model the world in your code based on objects, right? And those objects are both going to have data and they are going to have behavior. Classic examples of this would be like, I need to have like a little playground, don't I? That I can just open up and write code in. TypeScript. Let's go to the TypeScript playground. Let's see. Yeah, so like object-oriented code, right? You're going to have things like, class animal, right? And then you're going to do things like the animal has a name. So name, string, right? And then you're going to have something like, you could have like a method then with your animal that's called, I don't know, function. I guess I don't need the function keyword. Say name, right? And then you can create an instance of animal. And it can say its name, right? And then you might have inheritance, right? Which is like, now there are different types of animals, right? So there's like class dog, and dog inherits from animal, right? And then this is where you can start to get into like, this idea of like, now you can override this, so you can make this abstract, or I guess you can make it. Does this have a virtual keyword? Yeah, it doesn't have a virtual keyword in TypeScript. But then you can override this, right? So you could say like, say name, and you could provide it a different implementation of return dog, right? And then you can say const dog equals new dog dot say name, right? So it's just the idea. It's those concrete ideas of like, data and behavior belong together. You're typically going to rely on things like interfaces and classes, inheritance. You're going to encapsulate things. You're going to abstract things. Things are going to be polymorphic like this, right? So you have an animal class, but you can have a dog class, and a dog class is an animal, but an animal is not necessarily a dog. Which, I know, people have very strong feelings about these things, right? Code Brew. Hey, Code Brew, what's up, man? How are you doing? It's been a minute. So go a color, a gender. Yeah, exactly. So can all languages be object-oriented? Some languages don't lend themselves to it well, right? So like TypeScript and JavaScript make it pretty nice that you can write both object-oriented code as well as functional style code. But if you're working with something like if you're working with something like Rust or Go, those tend to lend themselves more towards functional paradigms. You can definitely kind of take an object-oriented approach a little bit, sort of, kind of, but not really. Like Go and Rust tend to be more data structures and functions. They're kind of separate things, right? You have data that's modeled, and then you have functions that work on that data. Artwork shows we were making a password screen. We were, yes, we were, and then we got very distracted. Nurmeet Gravat. Hey, hello, Nurmeet. How are you? Azim, in my college days, I used to teach OOPS to undergrad students. Oh, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I think initially, people build up object-oriented programming a little bit too high-minded when they're trying to learn it, right? I always just think of it in terms of like, data and behavior belong together. You want to try to encapsulate as much as you can into the classes. I'm not a big fan of I think abstraction's good, and I think inheritance can be good, but I think sometimes they can be taken to an extreme. Like if you've ever looked into a code base that's heavily abstracted and has a ton of inheritance, right? It can be very confusing to figure out what does what, Artwork says, how about C? I don't know C, so I'm not sure. I'm guessing C's object-oriented just because it's a C language. According to Google, it's possible to implement OOP principles in C, but it says it's more of a procedural language. But I'm definitely not a C programmer, so I couldn't tell you. Nurmeet Gavante, Nurmeet. I'm just gonna say your first name, Nurmeet. I'm a student working as a data scientist analyst working on ML DL models. Well, that's awesome, dude. That sounds like a blast of a job. Sounds like you're gonna have a skill set that's gonna be very valuable in the years to come. Whereas myself, I will still be writing web apps and building little forms like this. And you will be building the tools that will replace my skills. Azim, if you really want to learn OOP, try opting for C++. Yeah, I mean, I think C# great for learning object-oriented programming. I've never written C++, but I think C# is a wonderful way to learn it as well. I think JavaScript's a fine way to learn it too. You know, doesn't have all the nice bells and whistles as something like C#, but Code Brew. I first learned object-oriented programming with Java. Yeah, and so so Java would be great as well. Unknown not found. Do you think getting a computer science degree is a bad idea nowadays because of AI? No, I don't. I'm sure there's some people that will tell you it is, but I don't think it is. I think if you get a computer science degree, you're going to have a really solid understanding of the foundations, like the underpinnings of all the technology that we work with every day. And I think regardless of what you end up ultimately working with, that will be valuable. I don't have a degree in computer science, so I'll just say that I don't have a degree in computer science, but I don't think that just because we have generative AI now, it means people should stop studying computer science. Sogo Hotel. Do you like Java? I've never written any Java, Sogo. I just know it's like very similar to C#, so I'll have to give it a try at some point. There's so many languages I need to give a try, and I just haven't. All right, so back to this form for a second. Whenever I'm doing stuff like this, the way I break down these things is I always look at them as squares, right? As divs. So like, this is a div. This is a div. This is a div. Right? This is actually a div too, right? This is a box within a box. This is a box too. And this is a box. Here's another box. This is kind of how in my mind I think about it. And then this is a box, right? Yeah. So I just need yeah, I think I can get away with something this simplistic of a layout. Because the spacing between here looks about the same. Where's my ruler? There we go. I think the spacing between these things are about the same. There's 23 pixels. It's 22-ish pixels. 21-ish pixels. 29-ish pixels. Yeah, I think I can get away with that. All right, so we'll go in here, and we'll do a div. Do a h1. Enter, what was the text on that screen? Enter your password. And then div, another div. Let's see, I'm gonna call this class, card header. And then I'm gonna call this class equals like user info. All right, so how much padding do we want on here? .48 pixels. What is that? 48 divided by 16 is 3 rem. Adding 3 rem like this. Also, what's the font family here? There's a tool we need. We need a tool that detects fonts. Yep, and we don't want it to wrap either. I don't know, is that like Arial maybe? I'll just do Arial. Fonts, family, Arial. Oops. Yeah, that's probably fine. Arial's probably fine. Artwork Studios Java, write once, debug everywhere. Nice. Yeah, I don't know enough about Java to really pass judgment on it. Those who say a CS degree doesn't matter need to check the hiring post on the career portal. The minimum requirement is to have an undergrad degree. Yeah, I mean, that's so many jobs have that minimum requirement. Codebrew, I gotta go work on some stuff, but I'll be back. How long are you streaming for? Yeah, let's see. I've been live for about 41 minutes. I'll probably stream maybe no later than 11 p.m. probably. 11 p.m. Central. Artwork Studio. Somehow I still don't know how to use YouTube's API. I have no idea how to. Have you seen their documentation? YouTube API documentation? It's awful. It's awful. I don't care what anyone says. It's really, really bad. Like, it's very hard to find what you're trying to get after, in my opinion. They also don't let you download your videos, which I don't like. Like, I understand why you shouldn't be able to download other people's videos, but I feel like you should be able to download your videos. Yeah. I mean, people will shit on Microsoft documentation, but I think the YouTube API documentation is not very good. But yeah, I have no idea how to use it either. I've never used it in a project. The font looks like Roboto. Oh, maybe that's better. Maybe Roboto's better. Yeah, maybe Roboto. Unknown, not found. What intermediate projects do you recommend for Python? I don't know, man. An intermediate project. I don't know. I never know how to like think about projects in terms of complexity. Beginner, intermediate, advanced. That's probably a better question for ChatGPT, honestly. I think the best projects are the projects that solve a real problem you have or someone you know has. Yeah. Yeah, and unknown not found. If you're interested, you should check out Free Code Camp. Free Code Camp has some. I mean, most of their curriculum is centered around Python, but they do have some Python curriculum. I honestly, though, think the best projects are the projects that solve a real problem that you understand, forces you to think about the problem, how you would implement it in code. Yeah. I also think it makes it more likely you actually finish the project, that you actually complete it. What is this font size here? Maybe 16 pixels? Card header. Oops. Font size. Maybe one rim. Oh, whoops. that too little? Yeah, that's a well. Let's make it bold. Let's set it to the right color and then make it bold. No, we'll just do that. Why do you call this navy? And probably, I think it's bolded. It doesn't look like the same color. Is this actually white? Yeah, it's white. Yeah, I don't know. That just doesn't look the same. I think the font's still a little bit too small. No. Yeah, maybe 1.5 is right. Or 1. Maybe 1 is right. Well, let's get the rest of the things on there and see what it looks like. Okay, I'll do 1.25. It's a little bit too big, but... Alright, now let's do the user info. So we need like an image. Then we need a div. Put these on different rows. So we'll do an image. And then we need a div. And this is going to be like yeah, we're just going to make it div soup here. Let's see. This is going to be class equals user name. That's fine. Placeholder images. Let's see. Well, that's not right. Wait, Nightbot has commands. Yeah, if you type I think if you type commands, it'll actually tell you what all the commands are. Unknown, not found. The hardest thing about learning how to code for me is figuring out what to code. Yeah, I think that's where you need to talk to people and even think about your own life and try to think of problems that you could solve with code. Yeah. I think it makes it much more likely that you'll have passion and motivation to build stuff. KJ, what are we making? KJ, we are taking a little break this evening and vibing some front end. So go Code Academy has a free plan, and it has a Python course. Well, there you go. Maybe that'll be helpful for you. Unknown not found. Maybe Code Academy be a good one for you. Sam, we just seen your password, bro. Oh no. Artwork Studios. Wow, Steven, it's looking great. Yeah, this is wonderful, isn't it? I mean, this looks so much like the design. Yeah, it looks so much like the design, doesn't it? I'm just not a very fast builder. And I get hung up on really small details. Like, what do we think the size of that image is? Maybe I can't really measure it because it's maybe just start with 50 pixels by 50 pixels or something like that. Let's see. Card, or no, user, info, image. Yeah, that's fine. Let's not put a margin on it. Let's change this to be 50 pixels. That might be it. Hold on. Whoops. Might be a little too big. Maybe 40. Maybe 40 pixels. Yeah, it's a. Yeah, I don't know. I think 50. I'm gonna start with 50 and then go from there. Okay, and then dot user info is going to be display flex, line item center, and then we want to put a gap, like let's start with 0.5 rem. We also need to put a gap between these, so let's go to our card and let's do gap. Let's see, 1.5 would be 24 pixels. 1.5 rem. Or no, that's 24 pixels. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, now we'll just put the name. We'll put a fake name over there. No, title. There's a title and then name. So let's do class equals title. Class equals name. Just use mine. And then we'll say, we'll just do what my real title is, quality engineer. Doesn't that look wonderful? Looks just like the design. I think we're there. Artwork shoes. I love using Lorem Pixum for placeholders. Yeah. Lorem Pixum's good. This placeholder image is good, I think. I use this placeholder image a lot. Which I think if I change this to 50, right, this will give me an actually... Unknown not found. I'm checking CodeCamp out right now. Looks like a good course. Okay, cool, man. That's good. Yeah, that may be helpful. There's a lot of good free content out there. It really just depends on what you want to learn and where you want to apply yourself, you know? And so I totally get what you're saying though about the hardest part being figuring out what to build. Totally get that. And the only solution I really found is like for example, one of the recent projects I built was a line counter, right? It's a really simple, small little application, and all it does is it generates a line counter that I can show on stream, like that. I'm not using it right now, but if I was using it, I could run this tool in a Git repo, and as I make changes, it will run a git diff and then parse the git diff stats and then display it or write it to a text file. So I think trying to like find even the smallest of projects or the smallest of things that you can solve with code, and then sit down and try to build it. You know, it doesn't have to be a big complex thing every time. All right. Let's see. .user info. We can set this color to font color, or not font color. Color. Could be this navy color. Then we'll need to do user info title. I don't think that's small enough. Yeah, that's not small enough. It's got to be itty bitty. I think actually that's probably the right size for the name, maybe? Let's see. Let's do .user info .name. Let's set this to 0.75. And let's set this to 0.25. See how that looks. Okay, that's way too small on the title. Yeah. But I think the name looks okay. The title's way too small. The title probably needs to be like maybe 0.5. That's 8 pixels. Yeah, I mean, that's so small, but that's closer, I think, to what they're after. Maybe make it a little bigger. Maybe 0.65. Yeah, I'll just roll with that. And then I need to throw a gap in there. So user info display. Let's see, user. I'm actually gonna do username, and then I'm gonna make username be, yeah, like that. Well, that's too much of a gap. Let's see. Maybe 1.25. Yeah, that looks pretty good. The color of my text isn't quite right though. This is like a lighter blue. Let's try this. Yeah, that looks a little better. All right, now for the password. For the input. This is the part that's probably the hardest to do of this whole design, is this little toggle button. The internet's crazy. Yes, the internet is crazy. Modern with J Money Brown. Do you use AI to do your bills? I'm just curious. No, I do not use AI to do my bills. That seems like a recipe for disaster. Unknown not found. Solid device. Yeah, I don't know how useful my advice is sometimes, but if it's helpful, I'm glad. Dogman, yo, I'm here. Hello, Dogman. How are you? Artwork Studio is so small I can't read it. What color scheme are you using? Do you mean for NeoVim Artwork Studios for your editor? Yeah, I'm using I'm pretty sure it's one of the One Dark. Let's see, Telescope themes. It is. Let's see, it's one. I think it's One Dark. Yeah, this one. One Dark. Although I do like the GitHub. It's just the whoops. That made somebody mad. GitHub Dark. Why is that? Oh, do I not have that loaded? Maybe I don't have that set up correctly. The other one that's really nice is Capuchin. This is a nice one. Capuchin Mocha looks pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. The one dark is the one that I've found to be it looks the best across all the different languages and file types I work with. Z, hey Steven, love your videos. Where would you recommend to start my Python or Java journey? Hello, Z. Thanks for liking my videos, man. I appreciate that. Let's see, Java or Python? Well, I don't know Java, so I can't give you a good recommendation on Java. I've never actually written any Java. Python, I haven't ever taken the course, but I've heard really, really great things about boot.dev. In terms of like if you want to be a full stack developer and you want to know Python really well, I've heard really good things about boot.dev. This is actually on my wish list of like a subscription. It's kind of pricey. It's $50 a month. So you definitely don't need to use this to get started, but I've heard really good things about it. There's a course called Python for Everybody. That's the course I actually took when I was first learning Python. Was Python for Everybody. This is taught by Dr. Chuck. It's very good. I think it's on I think this is on Free Code. I think this is what Free Code Camp starts everybody on too. But this is where I'd probably go. If you're looking for something free that'll get you going, moving in the right direction, Python for Everybody. It's probably where I would send you. Boot.dev looks good. It just costs money, so it may not be the best option. Arkin, hello Arkin, how are you? Let's Hack Short, what's up, man? Hello, Let's Hack Short, how are you, dude? Good to see you. Looks real clean. Yeah, I like the theme. I haven't changed it. My VS Code theme is the GitHub. Yeah, my VS Code theme is a little bit different. VS Code. I can't remember what theme that is. I think this is one of the GitHub themes. Yeah, GitHub Dark is the theme I use in VS Code. And that's what I originally tried to use in NeoVim, but it doesn't look as good in NeoVim with all the different file types that I use or write or edit. Maybe, I don't know what the right vernacular is there. Oh, thanks, Hockey, for recommending something for Java, man. That was very nice of you. Z, we'll check out all of these out. Thanks for the tips. Yeah, of course, Z. And I would definitely start with something that's free to begin with. And if you do find that you like Python or Java, right, and you want to go deeper, then maybe think about investing some cash into some learning resources. But there's just so much free content on the internet to get started with. I wouldn't want you going into your taking money out of your wallet to get started learning, in my opinion. Combustion Crave. What are your thoughts on coding with Chat GPT? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Combustion Crave. I think the one thing I'll say with doing, like, when I first started learning how to code, I had no AI assistance. Right. This was like 2020. This predates Chat GPT being a thing. Predates Copilot being a thing. And so I would say that if I was learning to code, I probably wouldn't use an AI. Probably wouldn't use something that's AI assisted. I know there's going to be people who disagree with me. The vibe coders out there, right? Everybody who says like coding's useless now that there's AI powered coding assistants. But in my opinion, when you're learning to code, you want the reps. You want to get that muscle memory into your fingers. And so I wouldn't let an AI take those reps from me. Even today, if I was to sit down and learn a new language, I would disable Copilot because I don't want Copilot taking my reps. As you get more adept at a particular programming language and you get better at a particular way of writing code, then I think there's less of an issue using AI to generate code for you, because then you understand the code, it saves you time, it helps you avoid having to write boilerplate things. So I'm sort of like, I think it's good, I think it's useful, but I also think you got to be mindful of like, why are you writing code? What's your purpose? Are you trying to learn? Are you trying to move fast and build something? Right? That kind of dictates the context. Unknown, not found. What is a full stack developer? So typically that just refers to somebody who can build backends and build front ends, right? So typically, for example, a full stack developer would be somebody who could take this design, build the form, right? Exactly how it's shown here on the page. That would be the front end part. And then that full stack person would also be able to do the back end, and they would be able to write some sort of back end, whether that be a Lambda functions or like some sort of serverless thing, or it could be an actual proper web API in .NET, or it could be a Hano.dev API or an Express API that accepts the inputs, that accepts the form from the front end, and then does whatever it needs to do on the back end to authenticate the user, right? So that back end code would be able to validate the inputs, sanitize the inputs, query the database, hash the password, do the password comparison, right? So that would be someone who's full stack. They can do that whole thing. Whereas like a front end person would just be like, I built the form, I built the inputs, and I just know I need to hit a particular endpoint with what I built on the front end, and then a back engineer does the rest, right? And it seems like full stack is something you see in a lot of smaller orgs, right? That kind of have to maximize headcount, or maximize the usage of headcount. And then it seems like front end versus back end is something you see in organizations where either one, they have the headcount to be able to hire specialists, or they're architected, like their solution is architected in such a way where there's a very clear delineation of like front end and back end, right? Just has a lot to do with like how a company builds software and how they architect their software. But I think it's good to know a little bit about both. Even if you're like a front-end specialist, like I only want to do front-end engineering professionally, I think it's helpful to know about back-end and vice versa, in my opinion. And then it helps you also have empathy for each other, right? So if you're a front-end person talking to a back-end person, or a back-end person talking to a front-end person, you have mutual respect for one another. hockey. I found making simple games taught me lots and was also engaging and fun, but to each with their own preferences. Yeah, I like that. Game development hasn't really grabbed me. I've only really written one game, and it was Snake, and it's just a JavaScript implementation of it. It was fun, but it, yeah, I don't know, just hasn't really grabbed me. Doing things on like Unity, hasn't interested me. Our work studios, in my opinion, AI may be able to do 80% of the code, but you must do the last 20%. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's all about like where you are on your skill progression or your learning journey, right? Like, I've written plenty of Express and minimal API controllers and route handlers. Like, I don't need to write that boilerplate. I know what that boilerplate should look like. I can type it, but if an AI can do it in a second, and it would take me 30 seconds or 15 seconds to type it out, I will happily control tab my way through that code. But if it comes to more specific implementation of something, like I have a very specific method or very specific way I want to handle something, then I might disable Copilot and be like, I know what I want to write, Copilot. I don't need you constantly trying to force your opinion on me. So I just think it depends on what you're doing. Virtui, what about just asking AI like a mentor for logic and stuff, but not copy pasting? Yeah, I think AI is great for that. I mean, if you look at a lot of my chat usage, that's how I use it a lot. Like, here's an example of where like that's exactly how I used it in this case, where it was like, I need to implement a persistent WebSocket client in .NET that I can host and maintains a connection to a WebSocket server. How would you write this? Right? Like, it's something I've never done before. I just kind of want to get a feel for like, what would your implementation of this look like? And 9 times out of the 10, I'm not going to use much of the code it generates, but it's going to at least give me like a starting point to be like, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I kind of see that, but I don't think I do it exactly like that, but you know what I mean? Like, that's totally a valid use case for it. And I use it like that all the time. And I think that's where generative AI really excels, is that blank page problem of like, I don't know what I don't know, but maybe but through the power of these large language models, I can almost sort of like crowdsource, in such a way through the data it's been trained on, to say, what would maybe this look like if I was to ask 100 other developers, right? And some of it's bad, some of it's not good, but it gets you started, right? That way you're not just sitting there thinking, okay, I need to do this thing. I've never done this thing before. How do I even start? Unknown not found. Oh, I was really confused because the website full stack, and I thought they were related. Oh, nope. Yeah, doesn't have anything to do with a particular website. It's just a common idiom. When people describe themselves, if you're telling somebody what kind of developer you are and you say, I'm a full stack developer, that's just like shorthand for, I can write code that runs on the server as well as I can write code that runs on a client, right? Whether that be a web application, or maybe it's a mobile device, right? But I can do things that are UI related. Dogman, what about Blender? I've never used Blender before. I've never used it. YouTube, Google, Samsung. That is quite a username, buddy. Yo, bro, what app are you making? I'm not making an app. I sat down to stream tonight, and I was like, you know what? I haven't written any front-end related code in a while, so I think I'll just try to do a little vanilla CSS, HTML, tonight just for the fun of it. And so whenever I have a feeling or an itch like that, I usually go to this website called I Code This, and they have a daily challenge that they always post, and you basically just try to recreate it, and you can use whatever technologies you want. It's just kind of a fun thing, right? Is this live? It is live. Yep. What AI app maker is the best for making apps like Uber? I have no idea. I've only really used Lovable. That's the only one I've really tried. But I say just give some a go and see what comes out, you know? Good luck with it. Hockey, do you think AI will at some point be more creative and have way better long-term and short-term memory? I don't know, Hockey. There's a problem. Well, I should say, if we're talking about some form of AI that does not exist yet, maybe. But if we're talking about AI in its current existence of like large language models of these pre-trained transformers, I don't think so, because there are definitely limitations to the context window. There's definitely a limitation to how well the LLMs deal with larger and larger context windows and being able to hold things in that context window, which is essentially its memory, right? So if we're talking about in the aspect of LLMs today, I don't necessarily think that's probably going to happen. But if we're talking about some version of AI that's yet to be invented or yet to exist, maybe, right? And I think you see a lot of people trying to augment that innate problem with these generative AI models with using things like MCP servers, RAG pipelines, right? We're trying to find ways to give the LLM memory both short and long term, but do it in such a way that isn't really inherent to the model, right? We just try to stuff more information into the context window from other sources. And it sort of kind of works, but not always, right? Thanks for the name. You received 10 minutes too late to comment. Oh, yeah, there's just a delay. There's a delay between me answering chat as it comes in. Artwork studios. For me, I'm trying to impress my family. Well, that's a valid goal, man. If you want to do 3D modeling, then Blender is the tool. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I've never used it. Hockey fair, yeah. I just think, like, I personally think that LLMs aren't the final iteration of AI. Like, I think LLMs are very valuable for a lot of things, right? They add a lot of value, but I don't know if I believe that LLMs are what's gonna end up being what we would call AGI. I think there's gonna be something else, in my opinion. I'm too ignorant to be able to even tell you what that something else is. But based on my experience working with LLMs and all the things I'm learning about how these transformers are built, yeah, I'm skeptical. Like, I think LLMs are probably like, they're not the thing. Maybe they're the thing that gets us to the thing, right? There's this like intermediate bridge, but I could be wrong. There's way more knowledgeable people out there talking about this stuff than me. Bro, I'm looking for best developers to bring my idea to life, and for it, I would love to give each developer shares of the company. Any interest with your team? You could be the leader and fix the team. No, I'm good, man. I'm not interested in working for any anonymous YouTube account. Maybe send me a LinkedIn connection or an email or something. Maybe we can talk more, but yeah, I've no interest at this point in just a random YouTube account. Happy to do freelance work for people, though. Obviously, I would love to do some freelance work for people. Dog, man, you're random, dude. Have a good trip. I probably got another 30 minutes or so. I don't know how much further I'm going to get on this form. I don't think I'm going to get the toggle button done. Let's see if we can get the input done. The input's kind of interesting. I think this is a good example of an input that might trick up a newer developer or someone who's newer to web development. Because there's kind of a couple different approaches that you could take to this input, right? So you could have an input, and then you could, whoops. So you could have an input field, and then you could absolutely position this icon, and then just add a bunch of padding on the left side of the input. But you could also have an approach where like your inputs here, you could also have an approach where your inputs here, and then you add some sort of wrapper div, which is where the border comes from. But that has its own set of problems, right? Because then you have to deal with the focus ring, and how do you make the focus appear around the input correctly, and whoa, I did not mean to do that. So I think what I'll do is I'll probably just make an input, and I'll absolutely position that icon. I'll put some padding there, and call it a day is what I'll do. So let's do that. See div. I'm gonna call this class form group. And you could probably make the argument like, should this be a form? Yeah, like, should you wrap this in a form? Probably. If you're doing like semantic HTML, yeah, this should probably be wrapped in a form. I mean, you can make this a form. Nothing saying that you can't make that a form. All right, let's do the let's see, labels, password, type is password. So you can't use the native input, password input here, because then you're gonna have to deal with the fact that you now have this thing, right? So this is, you're just gonna probably want to have a plain input, and then you're gonna have to use JavaScript to do the masking. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but this is the exact reason why, like, designers, right? Like, a designer designed this, and you're like, God, this is so painful because there's already a native solution to this in the browser. Why are we reinventing the wheel? All right, we need some icons, don't we? Unknown, not found, laugh my ass off. Especially not one called YouTube, Google, Samsung. Don't take this name serious, bro. I know you see you for the first time, but if you open for development and have a good portfolio, we could connect on other platforms. Yeah, man, my LinkedIn's in my channel description. You're welcome to connect with me there. I've got a bunch of projects on my LinkedIn. If you type GitHub, here's my GitHub if you want to take a look at my GitHub. But yeah, if you want to connect and actually, if you have real work, I'd be happy to talk to you about doing freelance work. Depends on what you're trying to build. I don't do mobile development. So if you're looking for somebody to build you a mobile app, that would not be me. Hockey what? Hold on, let me see. Hey Steven, you should use your profile PFP for the image. Yeah, actually, I was thinking what we could do is we could actually, so GitHub has this really interesting feature where if you do GitHub and then your username, but you end it with PNG, it'll actually return your profile pic. So maybe we do that. So you do github.com/StephenFreeborn.png. There you go. See? That's pretty nifty. Hockey, what encryption does the masking do? So on the client side, it doesn't do really any encryption. Hockey, it's just a mask, right? So if somebody wanted to, that's why it's not really this isn't really a safe way to treat secrets. Because if someone was to inspect the input, right? If you were to render this form on the front end and the value attribute was set on your password, you would actually be able to see it in the markup. So it's not really doing any type of encryption. It's just visually masking it, right? So if you wanted to do something more secure, you could, like, if you wanted to treat a secret more securely that's rendered to the front end, you probably wouldn't actually return the secret to the front end. You would just return masked text, and then when they click the unmask button, then you actually go and get the secret, right? You could do something like that. That would be a little bit more secure, where it's like it's only transmitted to the front end when the user decides they want it to be in the front end. But yeah, it's not really doing any type of encryption. It's just a visual mask, right? So people can't like look over your shoulder and see your password. Hockey, can someone help explain the NP problem to me like I'm a toddler? I just can't wrap my head around it. What's the NP problem? I'm not familiar with that. NP problem? Non-deterministic polynomial time? Is that what you're talking about? Because I can't explain it to you. That's over my head, man. It's over my head. Alright, so we're going to go back here. This is going to actually be... So this actually needs to be a div. Oh, actually... This actually needs to be a nested div. So this will be class password. And then we're going to have a button over here. Button. And that's going to be of type button. And then in here, we're going to have our input, which which is going to be just of type text. And then we'll have ID password, name password. It probably should have placeholder text. It should be required. Yeah, so the reason why it needs to be structured that way, the reason why it needs to have this type of layout is because I need to be able to make this absolutely positioned. Or no, I need to make this be relatively positioned, right? So I need to make this div be relative, and then I'm going to have an SVG in here that I'm going to absolutely position over the input. And then this button is the unmask button, the show and hide button that's going to appear over here, right? So you kind of think of it like we have a div here. Then we have this div. And then we have another div around this stuff. It's kind of funny with like web design and web development just comes down to a lot of rectangles. A lot of rectangles. Hockey. Yeah, Hockey, I don't know. I can't answer your question about NP problem. I don't know enough about that myself. Yo, I'm back. Edit. I'm in the back rooms. Help. I don't know what you're talking about, Dogman. I'm lost. Verti, do you have any recommendations for ways to generate a license key people can purchase, like for a set amount of time, then input the key to get access, like a subscription, basically? Yeah, I would think. Let's see. How would I do that? How would I approach that? For ways to generate a license key people can purchase, but only for a set amount of time, then input the key to get access. Yeah, I guess for the first question that comes to mind is the set amount of time like a one thing, like a set and forget it? Like I create the key, it's valid for 30 days, and then regardless what happens, or does it need to roll where like I generate a key, it's valid for 30 days, and then they need to pay again at some point to extend that another 30 days? At the simplest, I'm just thinking of like, I'm just thinking like you'd insert a row into your date. You'd have some table, right? And that table would have key, and then it would have expiration, right? And then you would insert a row whenever somebody paid you. You just generate a unique key. You could use a GUID or however you want to generate that unique key, right? And then you'd give that back to them. And when they go and enter it into your system, you just then make sure you look up that key and make sure that the key is a valid key and make sure the key isn't expired, right? I probably wouldn't try to make it too more complex than that. And then if you needed to advance the subscription, right, you would just say, as long as I receive another payment, I'll go and update that key's expiration date to be X days or whatever unit of time forward. Just roll the expiration forward. Hockey, what kind of data does the masking SVG contain? I'm not sure how to answer that, Hockey. The masking SVG. This would just be text, right? Is that what you're asking? It's just text, and they, if you type 10 characters in here, then the input's just going to show you 10 dots. Or maybe you're talking about the button, the SVG that we're going to use as the icon for the button. Maybe that's what you're talking about. Hockey probably use long random sequences that could be encrypted and decrypted with like a key value pair of some sort. Yeah, I'm not sure what are you talking about for Virtui's question? I don't think you need to do any encryption or decryption for what he's wanting to implement. You just need a unique string that sits in your database, right? That can't be guessed. It's difficult to guess or difficult to generate. Artwork Studios. Anyways, I gotta leave in like 8 minutes. I love that Steven says Gwyd. What do you guys? How do you guys say it? Gwyd? Gwyd? I've always just said Gwyd. Or do you guys say the full thing? Globally unique identifier? Alright, let's see if we can get this like prettied up just a little bit. Let's see, font awesome. I need a lock icon. I need like a padlock. Padlock. There we go. We can use this guy. It's not perfect. Oh no, it needs to be hollow. Oh, those are all pro. Yeah, those are all pro versions. Ah, I don't want to buy. Alright, well, this is the free one, so that's the one we're going to use. Alright, so this is going to sit inside here. And then class equals password input. So then we'll come up here and we'll say dot password input, and we will say so the biggest thing I'm curious about right at this point is position needs to be relative, and then password input SVG needs to be, yeah, that's good. No, that's not good. Position. It would help if I could spell things correctly. There we go. And so then we're just gonna need to add some padding to our input and shift a bunch of padding so that the text doesn't start underneath the icon. I just say GWID. Oh, okay. Oops, I said wrong. I meant GUID. Yeah, I just say GWID. What did I say? GWID. Alright, let's see how tall this input is. 31 pixels. It's oddly specific. I think I'll just make it 2 rem. So we'll say password input. I don't like that. I don't like that class name. Password input container. I'm just gonna call it container. Alright, so we'll say height is 2 rem. Yeah, and then we need to add some padding, like 1 rem of padding to the left. Padding left is going to be 1 rem. It may actually need to be a little bit more than that. Yeah, maybe 1.5 rem. I think this is too big. I think that lock is too big. This should be 0.5. And I think this needs to be half of that always. That's too small. What's 7? 7.5. 7.5. This is where we should use a custom property. We should say size is 0.75 rem. Oh my goodness. I don't know why that tab doesn't work. And then this should always be half. Calc bar size divided by 2. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think that's better. Maybe I do the like 1 rem. That's frustrating me. This is the part of the front end that I'm sure people hate. Yeah, that looks better. And then I need to slide this over a little bit more. It's a little bit too much. What do I want to do? I want to do this. So maybe left 0.5 rim. Whoops. I think that's good enough. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep obsessing over it. All right, now I need some border radius around the input. And then I need to fix the outline. The outline's not right. Set the border. All right, now we just need to add the actual border color. Hello, Bob. How you doing? Bob, I checked out your project, but I got bored pretty quickly. I kind of don't like backend stuff. Hey, that's fair, man. It's definitely not for everybody's, not everyone's cup of tea. Everybody likes their own stuff, you know? COR Studios, thanks for hanging out, man. Verti, I'm glad to randomly discover this live stream. You're cool. Well, I appreciate that, Verti. I don't know how cool I am. My kids would argue that I'm not cool at all. Bob, I think you can just find pre-made CSS styles. Well, you could, but that's half the fun, right? I don't know. To me, that's half the fun, is styling it. Whoops. I think it's a little thicker than that, huh? No, 1 pixel is about right. It's too dark, though. It needs to be a little bit more than that. All right, let's get another button in here. Let's see. I. So when it's masked, it shows the slashed I. We also need to write a little bit of we need to write a little bit of JavaScript to handle that input. Const, yep. We're gonna have it be let password value. Bob, true, yeah. Yeah, man, it's half the fun, right? Okay, then we're gonna need to say add event. So basically what we need to do is when someone enters text into this, so key down, let's see, const placeholder, or no, mask character is going to be, we'll start with an asterisk. Yeah, we'll start with an asterisk and we'll say, yep, input value. Let's see, yep. Then we'll say password input, yeah, equals max value. What does that look like? Yep, there we go. That's what we want. But we actually want dots, don't we? Are those dots or those asterisks? I can't tell. Those are dots. Let's see, dot character. Let's see, dot character Unicode. I think we want something like this. What does that look like? Too small, too small. That's a little too large. We need something in the middle. I think bullet is the right. Yeah, there we go. That looks okay. Yeah, that looks good. And then the other thing we need to do is we need to persist that input value. We need to capture that in our password value. Password, yeah, like that. We're also going to need something like, we're also going to need some sort of Boolean flag that we toggle, right? So let password visible. And we're only going to do this. We're going to say if password visible, just return. And then if we were to switch that flag to true, my super secret password. Yeah. Hello, civil engineering students. Sounds like I'm addressing more than one person. Do you know how middleware works, or like a good example of it? Middleware. So almost any type of HTTP framework or web framework for writing like HTTP servers is going to have the middleware concept in it. But another way to it doesn't have middleware doesn't have to be just in that context, right? Middleware is just this idea of like pipe. Basically, it's like pipelining, right? So, you know, in the context of an HTTP server, the pipeline is a request response pipeline. So you have, you have the beginning of your pipeline here, and then something comes out on the other end, right? I'm not a very good artist. Maybe I can just use a square block to represent it, right? But you've got something going in and then something going out. And middleware is just going to be some sort of function, right? This pipeline is just going to be a bunch of middlewares, right? That request enters into this middleware. That middleware does something. Then it calls the next middleware, calls the next middleware, calls the next middleware, calls the next middleware. I think something like I think it's helpful though to learn this in the context of an HTTP server because it makes the most sense. I think like if you're building something with like hano.dev, right? Excuse me. Right, where you're just basically saying, "Hey, call the cores middleware, right, for this path." Right? And then the next thing, we add another middleware, right? Or this is you can think of this like a middleware, you can think of it like a handler, right? So you'll call your logger, then you'll call your cores middleware, then you call your actual handler. But inside each of these middleware functions, you can do different stuff, right? So you can kind of see, here's a really good example right there, right? Call this middleware, call this middleware, call this middleware, then finally call the handler. And inside each one of the middlewares, you just call the next one in the chain. There's a good visual diagram. All right, so there's your handlers in the middle. So I don't know if that helps, like make more sense of it. Like it's not crazy complicated, right? It's just a bunch. It's almost like a bunch of closures, right? Like a bunch of function calls. TypeScript playground. Yeah, it's almost like function do first thing, right? And then this does console.log something, console.log something, right? And then you have another function in here that's called do second thing. And that's a function that you define, do something, right? And it just kind of can cascade, right? As much as you want it to. Make it as complex as you want it to be. Oh, do something. Would help if I could spell stuff. And then in here you could, right? And so that's all it is. It's just a pipeline of like closures. Almost everybody has something like it for in the context of an HTTP server. Hockey, would API be a middleware? Yeah, an API would have middleware, 100%. Yeah. You know, I mean, middleware is typically, when you think of middleware, you're talking in the concept of something like a request response pipeline. Crypto News, hey Steven, you are giving me motivation to do the same stuff every day. Well, that's great. I'm glad you find some motivation from Jawad. Verti, middleware is like waiter in restaurant between you and kitchen. Is that a good analogy? Let me think about that. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see how you get there. I don't know if that's the analogy I would use personally. Unique UX. Hello, Unique UX. How are you? Sorry to bail on you, man, but I just hit the 2-hour mark. Well, I didn't really get this form implemented. here's where we're trying to get to, and here's what we got. Crypto News. Are you working for a company or doing freelance? What are your main source of income? I have a W2 day job. I work as a quality engineer for a software company, and currently no freelance. I don't do any freelance for anybody, but I would definitely be interested in doing some freelance work. You know, I spent so much time and energy learning the skill set. I would love to be able to monetize it, you know, in some way, shape, or form by doing work for other people. I haven't put a lot of energy into that, but definitely would never, if somebody said, hey, we'd love for you to build me I'd love for you to build me a website or build me an app, I definitely wouldn't turn my nose up at that conversation. Wouldn't do it for free, but all right, guys, I think it's time for me to head to bed. I think it's time for me to head to bed. But I appreciate y'all keeping me company and hanging out with me. while we vibed through a little vanilla front end action there. All right, guys. I'm headed to bed. Y'all have a good rest of your. I guess for most of you, it's probably still or it could be Friday. I hope you guys have a good rest of your Thursday, a good rest of your Friday if it's already Friday for you. And yeah, I'll probably see you tomorrow. Yeah? All right. Bye, guys. Have a good night. Bye, Unique UX. Bye, Unknown Not Found. Bye, Crypto News. Virtui, bye. Bye, Inspire. Jawad, see you later. Civil engineering student, see ya. Bob, see ya. All right, guys. Bye, y'all.